be scared to death that you're gonna make a mistake. Raylan ended up in the PICU because of a mistake. And at the hospital, I saw at least 2 errors. Nurses make mistakes all the time. Hey guys, driving to my clinicals, and it's been a crazy few days. We're back home. Raylan was in the PICU for a week, and we're back home. I told people when she was in the PICU, she's the healthiest kid in the PICU. She felt pretty good. She needed some extra lung support. That's why she was in there. But she felt pretty good for the most part. She enjoyed watching movies. She was a little anxious and antsy because she's new to the BiPAP and she didn't like the high settings they had her on. But it wasn't a horrible stay. All that said, she's been home 2 nights, and the 2 nights home have not been nearly as easy. I mean, mostly because we don't have a whole bunch of extra people to help with her, and she has explosive diarrhea from the prophylactic antibiotics they have her still on, which she's almost done with, thankfully. And she still has BiPAP at home, and she's still trying to adjust to it. So we're tired. I'm not getting to clinicals as early as I wanted, which is okay because I get there earlier than I need to all the time, and I have a whole extra hour. I'm an hour ahead of my schedule for I try to do 12 hours a shift, and I've done on average 12 and a half hours a shift. So it's okay. I'm not like late. I'm just not on the time I want to be. But I was thinking as I was driving here, because Raylan ended up in the PICU because of a mistake that was made, most likely by a brand new nurse we had in our home for the first time. And while we were in the PICU, at least a couple, I can name a couple mistakes that were made. Obviously the mistake that the nurse made in our home was a lot more serious because she ended up in the PICU for a week, but I really don't blame the nurse too much. The circumstances she was in, her Raylan's BiPAP machine is kind of difficult to deal with, and there's just a lot of things that went into. I can see how she missed something, and it upset Raylan's lungs. But anyways, so I'm not like, this is not a bash this nurse, and I also am talking about her because none of you can even possibly know who she is. Our regular nurse doesn't even know who she is because we had her for 1 night, literally, and she doesn't float in our circle of people. So anyways, our nurse that we had at home made kind of a big boo-boo. It was an easy one to make, but kind of a big boo-boo. And at the hospital, I saw at least 2 errors. At least 2. They were not big. One of them, a nurse was told, I guess by the other nurse, and I think in the chart, like, put all of Raylan's meds through her J port except her Epidiolex, that goes through her G port. And I was not watching this nurse, and she finished, and she's like, okay, so I put all of her meds through her G port, and then just her Epidiolex through her J port, so we should be good. I was like, okay, thanks. Next time, switch that. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I said, that's okay. Don't send tell respiratory to stay away for the next hour, because respiratory is shaker vest and suctions, and with that many meds in her G port in her stomach, there's a lot more chance that she would spit that up. Like, her stomach was probably a little bit upset from that. The other mistake I saw was on BiPAP, they have their BiPAP machine has like these humidity settings on it, and there's one button for invasive, because it's actually a ventilator, I think, that she's hooked up to. The BiPAP's hooked up to a ventilator. So, and this humidity thing, there's invasive level of heat and humidity, and there's non-invasive level heat and humidity, and the invasive one is just a little bit, I know it's a little warmer, and I think it might be a little moister than the one that's for non-invasive that sits on your face. And a couple different times, someone had pushed the invasive level of heat and humidity. Honestly, I kind of think Raylan liked that level a little more, but it was definitely an accident. They switched it back. So I realized, if you're a new nurse and you haven't worked closely with other nurses, and doctors and stuff, you might be scared to death that you're going to make a mistake. And I just wanted to reassure you, you're going to make mistakes. Nurses make mistakes all the time. Doctors make mistakes. It's part of life. You're not perfect, and you're going to do the best you can. And when you realize a mistake, it really is important to let people know, so little things can happen. Like if you made a mistake and put all their meds in their G port instead of their J port, like this nurse did, when we realized it, like there was something we could do to help. We could make sure respiratory didn't come by and do the little shaker vest and suction her while she had all that stuff in her stomach. The mistake the nurse made by letting people know what happened when we went to the ER, by letting the people at the hospital know. I mean, one, they weren't worried that her BiPAP was going to keep doing this because they realized there was a mistake on how the BiPAP was being worn. And two, they helped us adjust our BiPAP settings so that hopefully that mistake wouldn't happen again and it would be more obvious, because I really do feel like if we sent her to Almost Home Kids for respite camp, it just was an easy mistake to make, unfortunately. So they helped us adjust her settings. So you're gonna make mistakes. I promise. If you do something wrong, you're like, oh no, I made a mistake, and you tell someone, they've made mistakes too. And if they're a good supervisor, if they're a good charge nurse, or whoever it is you have to tell you made the mistake to, they're not gonna make you feel bad. They're gonna just help you figure out what things happened that maybe caused you to make that mistake, whether it was equipment designed to set you up for failure, kind of like Raylan's BiPAP machine with the wrong settings, or whether it's you need a better system to keep track of who needs what when, or you're overworked and you need to, try to manage your schedule better. They're going to hopefully help you figure out how to avoid that kind of mistake. And also just to encourage you, it's okay. We make mistakes. We're going to make this adjustment, to hopefully make sure nothing bad happens from that mistake. But I don't know. I just realized if I hadn't been a medical parent that's seen so many nurse mistakes and doctor mistakes, I think I would be a lot more worried about making mistakes. But I've seen so many mistakes, and most of them are not a huge deal. One of the ones I can remember that really frustrated me was Raylan had really bad diarrhea. The antibiotics that she gets in the hospital, a lot of times, when she was a baby, when she was littler, they didn't do this to her. But now that she's older, a lot of times the antibiotics she's on are just, her gut does not handle them as well. And she ends up with, she can't stop pooping, and it's just liquid, and it's uncomfortable, and her bottom's getting raw from it. It's just no fun. Anyways, this was a previous day, a while ago, and she's pooping so much, and I'm like, a brand new nurse came on, and they go and they give her meds, and they walk out of the room, and then I'm over by Raylan and taking care of her, and I look at the trash because I'm throwing something away, and at the top of the trash is sitting this little cup of an empty medicine cup that had Senna in it. And I know because they're single serve, and the nurses just peel off the back and draw up the medicine, and so it was, I could see the label on the top that said Senna. That's a laxative. It helps you poop. Frequently kids get laxatives that help them poop after surgery because they have problems. And so it was on her list of things to get, and I know that everyone was told it should not be on her list anymore. Somehow, several people maybe made a mistake to make this happen. Somehow it was still on her med sheet or something, because the nurse was able to get it out of the Pyxis to give to her. For some reason, the pharmacy was sending it up or something, and I I saw the med cup. I was like, this kid's pooping nonstop and you just gave her Senna. But I saw the med cup in the trash and I just went and found the nurse and I said, hey, I just saw she just got Senna. She is pooping nonstop with explosive diarrhea. Can you please do something to make sure everyone knows not to accidentally give her anything else to help her poop? And, you know, I was a little mad, but not really at that nurse. I mean, just at the situation. And I think people may get mad at you if you make a mistake. They might. You can't control other people. I feel like reasonable people, if you make a mistake, are gonna understand that you're a human and you make mistakes. I was annoyed at the situation. I wasn't mad at the nurse. Like, they have a lot of patience. Usually people after surgery get Senna. Like, it's just a laxative. It was a minor inconvenience. So yeah, if someone gets really, really mad and mean to you because you made a mistake, they probably get mad and mean with lots of people. And don't treat other people like that when they make mistakes. But just know, sometimes we make mistakes. So that's my advice if you're a new nurse. One new nurse to another that's also seen a lot of mistakes, you're gonna make mistakes. It's okay. Like, let people know. It'll get taken care of. Learn from it. And don't let it paralyze you. Don't let it hold you back.